What's going on, everybody? My name is TrendKiLL, and welcome back to Know Your Enemy. So finally, we're back with Know Your Enemy, and this was supposed to be a weekly series, so I do apologize that there have been some gaps in video releases. I've been working on some projects behind the scenes that have put a little more on my plate than I anticipated, but you don't care about that. Let's go ahead and get into the reason why you came here today. Today, we're going to be talking about Nemesis, the goddess of vengeance. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the graph of Nemesis. This is going to give us a general idea of the areas Nemesis excels in. Now you can see at a quick glance that Nemesis is not absolutely great in one category or another, but she's pretty good in all categories. Now if you've watched previous episodes of this series, you'll remember that at one point I said that warriors are generally your jack-of-all-trades type classes. They are usually the type of character that's going to be pretty decent in everything, but not necessarily great in one specific area. Now Nemesis is listed as an assassin, but has the characteristics of a warrior, and this is because she was originally released as a warrior and was reclassified as an assassin. So there's not a lot of mind-blowing information that we can pull from this graph, just understand that Nemesis is a pretty well-rounded character. Alright, so now let's take a look at Nemesis's abilities. Nemesis's, that sounds funny. Is it Nemesis? Nemesis? Nemesis's. Nemesis's her passive is called Scales of Fate, and essentially as she's auto-attacking somebody, she steals their physical and or magical power. This plus several of her other abilities we're going to talk about make Nemesis one of those gods that you don't necessarily want to box in a 1v1 situation. Now I'm not saying that Nemesis can't be beaten in a 1v1 situation, I'm just saying that her kit definitely tips the scales in her favor. Haha, puns stolen from the description of the passive. Anyway, the only other real highlights of this ability is the fact that when she steals magical power from somebody, she only gains half of that magical power as physical power. This is because the scaling on magical power is generally much higher than it is on physical power. So, without the reduction, she would steal more power from a magical god. Her first ability is called Swift Vengeance, and this is a very interesting ability in the fact that it's one of the very few abilities in the game that allows somebody to jump or dash multiple times in succession. This gives Nemesis a lot of mobility and a lot of misdirection. The only caveat to this ability is the fact that if you dash once, you have the option to dash a second time within 2 seconds. However, using any ability in between those two dashes cancels your option of dashing that second time. Her second ability is called Slice and Dice, and this is Nemesis's this is her bread and butter ability. This is a large cone-shaped AoE that does a very low amount of damage. However, if she happens to hit you in a section right in the middle of that cone, it deals double damage and slows you for 50% at max rank. So if she misses the middle part of her targeter, it's a very meh ability. If she does hit it, however, and it is very easy to hit, it does a lot of damage and slows you by 50%. Her third ability is called Retribution, and this gives Nemesis a damage reflection shield. Now first off, let me explain what I mean by damage reflection shield. First off, it is a regular old shield. It will absorb up to 500 damage at max rank. However, it will reflect 50% of the damage taken back to the person who attacked you, as well as heal Nemesis for 50% of the damage taken. Now that caps at 500 damage because that's the total amount of damage that the shield will absorb. So the maximum amount of damage that you'll reflect and the maximum amount that you will heal is 250. So it's a very interesting ability in the fact that it does several different things and can be used several different ways, a couple of which we'll get into in the mechanics section. And finally, her ultimate Divine Judgment. This is another very unique ability, first off because it cannot miss. You have to have a god targeted to be able to use this ability. In addition to that, just like her passive steals power, her ultimate steals protections. Not only that, it also slows the enemy you hit with it and makes Nemesis faster. And on top of all that, finally, it does damage equivalent to 50% of the god you're fighting's current health. So if you happen to be fighting a tank, not only is it going to deal half of their total health in damage, it's also going to reduce their protections, increase Nemesis's protections, her passive is going to steal their power and give it to her, it's going to slow them, speed Nemesis up. If you do end up getting in trouble, you've got a shield that can help you fight through that, and if that shield is still not enough, you can dash out with one of the most mobile and misdirecting abilities in the game. Let me repeat, be very careful boxing Nemesis. Alright, so on to the mechanics section. This is probably going to be a pretty short section. Of course, every single time I say that, I end up filling the normal amount of time, but Nemesis is a very simplistic god. 3 of her 4 abilities cannot be missed. One is a dash, one is a shield, and her ultimate has to have a target to be able to use it. The only thing that she can miss is her 2, her slice and dice, and that is extremely hard to miss because it's essentially a 180-degree cone in front of you. Now, with that being said, just because she's easy to play does not mean she's easy to play against. So I've put together a few tips that I think you're really going to find helpful. First off, let's start with Swift Vengeance. Remember I said this ability adds a ton of misdirection. If Nemesis dashes once, remember before you use an ability that she has the option to dash a second time. So that can be really tricky. She can dash away from you and then turn around and dash right back towards you, and you've already thrown an ability the opposite way. Now on the flip side of that, if she does anything in between her 2 dashes, remember that she is completely immobile. As stated before, using an ability in between the 2 dashes cancels the option for the second dash. Now in addition to that, she has to right click to cancel the dash to use auto attack. So if you see her auto attacking in between her 2 dashes, she has already canceled the option for the second dash. So be on the lookout. If you think there might be some misdirection coming and you see her using an ability or auto attacking, know that she cannot dash that second time and her ability is now on cooldown. Now let's skip her slice and dice. Let's talk about her retribution real quick. Do not forget that this reflects damage. If you are low, do not try to fight a Nemesis. If she pops her shield, odds are she's going to kill you. Not only that, you're going to heal her, making her harder for your team to kill her. So don't forget about that very subtle mechanic. In addition to things not to forget, remember that hard CC removes the shield completely. So if you're playing a Guardian, always be cognizant of the fact that if a Nemesis tries to gank your lane and you think the fight is going to go on long enough to where she's going to have to use her shield, do remember that any hard CC that you have at your disposal should be used to clear that shield. You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, peeling for your lane mate and removing her shield, probably making her retreat. Now when we talk about Divine Judgment, we're going to talk about Slice and Dice at the same time because Slice and Dice is almost always going to follow her ultimate. While you will see her use Slice and Dice by itself without ulting, you will rarely see her ult without using Slice and Dice to follow. Now first things first, if you are by yourself and you get ulted by Nemesis and then Slice and Dice, do everything in your power to retreat before you even think about fighting her. Make sure that you regain control. If you do plan on fighting her, remember that she still has her dash and she still has her shield at her disposal, and she gets your protections for 8 seconds. Now, the problem is her ultimate and her 2 both slow you. So using something to cleanse that slow is very important. Items like beads, or more importantly, sprint, is a very smart option against a Nemesis. Not only does it cleanse the slow, but it also gives you movement speed so that you can get away from her. Now 2 things, remember that you need sprint too before sprint will cleanse slows, and Nemesis probably still has her dash at her disposal. So getting sprint does not guarantee that you're going to live, but it can obviously drastically help. To further this tip, if you are a god that does not have any abilities that are going to cleanse that slow, and you do not have any escape moves, and you do not have sprint, you are going to be picked on by a Nemesis, and there's not much that you can do about it. So if you are playing one of those gods, remember to be observant, watch for Nemesis coming, and when she gets there, have sprint at the ready to retreat as fast as you can. And one last tip for Nemesis, if you are low on life and you're trying to turtle in your tower, you are not safe. Even if you're behind your tower, you are not safe. Nemesis can use her shield to shield tower damage and her dash to essentially dash all the way through the tower without taking any damage. This makes her extremely fearless when it comes to tower diving. And furthermore, Nemesis is one of those assassins that can get around your wards by coming through the back of the tower to gank you. Again, using her shield and dash to get through the back of the tower to catch you unaware. So really guys, that's about it. Again, as I said before, Nemesis is a very simple god, and as I look at my fake watch on my wrist, I realize this video went as long as all the other ones, so apparently I don't know how to estimate time. Anyway, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with us. I hope you learned something from the video today. I hope you're enjoying the series, and I hope you come back next week when we're going to be talking about Hercules, the champion of Rome.